How do you do? Greetings on this fine, windy evening here in the lower central part of Texas. Mr. Limley would like to warn you once again that this is one hell of a movie and lay the groundwork for a lot of cool shit afterwards. So, welcome everybody to Master the Universe Horror Podcast. In tonight's episode, we're going to be reviewing myself and Joey Cage, host of the show. We're going to be reviewing Bride of Frankenstein. Now, the basic rundown of same is this. We're talking about a movie here that's sequel to the original Frankenstein, which in and of itself was a trailblazer. We're talking about April 22nd, 1935. And I looked it up, and that happened to be a Monday. And not only any Monday, it was the day after Easter Sunday. On a budget of $397,000 in those days dollars, did $2 million at the box office. Now, not quite the 1900% return the last one, but still really fucking good. 400%. I'm not going to cry about that. Once again, continuation of the original novels, continuation of a story based on the original novel, 1816, by the English writer Mary Shelley. Now, this movie, Joey Cage, opens up with a prologue here. What were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was, completely different, dude. Than like, let's just right off the bat say how. I mean, of course, it's got Frankenstein, and it still has um, Henry, Colin Clive. But for the most part, it feels like a really different movie just because the first one was so much darker and kind of like it starts off like think about it like this, right? We got I love that you did the intro like how do you do? I love every time I put on the original Frankenstein, I pop for that because it sets the tone, it gets you, and some of it will shock you, others it will thrill you, whatever the fuck, it may horrify you. This one, it starts off with, they're in like the lobby and they're just having a good time. So I'm like, okay, and well, how did you feel? How did you feel when you saw this tonal change?
It was a tonal change because it's not someone just coming out on a theater stage warning us of something. This is three people in an old school mansion somewhere in Europe or Britain or Germany talking about their lives, and then the novel that Mary Shelley, who's portrayed as Lanchester, Ms. Lanchester, I'd say, Elsa Lanchester. What am I saying? It's not only that, but then they're talking about the novel, and then they talk about the weather outside and the lightning, and then they start going into a summary recap of the prior film. So even if you didn't actually see the prior film, let's say I was going over to your house, and when I get there, you say, "Hey, I want to watch Bride of Frankenstein." That cool with you? I say, "Sure," but the problem is I never seen the first one. You're going to turn on the prologue, and it's going to be mostly okay because I'm going to see kind of a basic summary of events,
Mm-hmm.
and I like this guy, this Lord Byron. The thing about him, he made me think he was some Patrick Stewart, Gordon Brown Scotsman. No, he's from Mississippi.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was like, who the fuck are these people? I I was laughing because he goes, I get lost in their dialogue, because it's so like it's not, obviously we don't talk like that anymore. But he starts saying something like rolls off the tongue, and I just remember him saying something like that, and I was like, "What in the fuck is going on?" Like it really. And then I did some research about just how this got, the production of it and everything. And they wanted to do, something that made a lot of money. They were like, well, Frankenstein did really well, really helped Universal, the Universal Studios. And they wanted James Whale to direct it again. He didn't want to do it just because he had already done that film and kind of wanted to do other shit. So they basically allowed him to do a passion project. I forgot the name of the film, but it was like another film. I think it was before or after this. Didn't do well, and this one, of course, is like it's for horror people, and even I guess even for people that are not into horror movies, they know that title, Bride of Frankenstein, right? And
Sure.
I feel that because he didn't really want to do this, and he was just doing it for like not really for a paycheck, but to do something else that he wanted to do. That he
Yeah.
kind of like made a joke out of it, and it still came out well. Like we were talking earlier about it. I go, this is like one of the very first like campy horror movies to where it's so exaggerated and kind of like a comedy almost, And you're like,
Yeah.
it's such a weird thing to have a 1930s film be horror but also be like a comedy. You're like, whoa, this is really weird. I wonder if people back then um kind of got to it because we see that shit all the time with like Freddy 5 and 6 and shit. They started doing that kind of shit, and here it
Yeah.
is, the second one. But
And you speak to something here that is very important because like you said, this movie, when you watch the first one and then you watch this one is lighter hearted. There's a lot more dialogue. It's not so centralized to just a handful few of people. There's a lot of people going on here in this. These are very, very likable characters that you start to like when you see them interact. And you kind of see a different side of the monster as well. So yeah, the first one is pretty dark and often and you're gonna see that trend repeat. History repeats itself. The first of any kind of horror film in a series of sequels is going to be the darkest, most horror oriented one. They lighten up, maybe too much so as the sequels come.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's a very good point. Very good. It's true with everything, like the first one is always the darkest, the craziest. The second one is going to be usually, from what I've seen as a horror meister, is that the second one, it's always going to be drastically different. And I can name you a few examples. Friday the 13th one, Friday the 13th two, completely different movie because it actually has fucking, a guy. You actually know who it is. There's no like kind of like, who is it? It's like for the most part, just we have our killer and the the same thing with the Nightmare on Elm Street. It just seems so different. And this is also like, I didn't know. I just read about it too. It's like this one. It's like one of the first kind of LGBTQ kind of uh, movies because James Whale was openly gay. So I guess he threw in some gay shit in there.
And
Um,
not only James Whale, but also Gavin Gordon, who played Lord Byron in the prologue.
Oh no shit. Well, see, probably yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, and so a lot of ways that's exactly like Freddy too, where they have a lot of like I said, LGBTQ. I'm not gonna say that 15 times.
Like fucking Jesse, who's I mean, we thought, oh, he's just doing a really good job playing a effeminate, gayish, hinting at character, but we
Yeah,
find out now he got married to his husband in Mexico like 10 years ago.
yeah. I was like, what the fuck? In Mexico, I was like, oh shit. In Mexico, nonetheless. And like in the Puppet Master 1 and 2, they're very tonally different. And then it's the third one, and we're gonna talk about Son of Frankenstein after this. Then we're gonna get into some other shit. But the third one is usually where they get a mixture of the two, which is I feel that like three is a little goofy too, but this is the one that's almost over the top. But you know uh, let's get into it. We
Yeah.
already like fucking touched on a lot of shit already, which I'm glad. The intro, we were talking about all this shit earlier, and I put it on because I've seen this movie literally, I don't know, probably like 20 times, which is not that much compared to like some of the other shit that I've seen. You know what I mean? Like, with all the Freddy movies, I mean, I'm not even joking. Like, I've seen those movies like close to like well over like 100 times because back I've talked about it before back then where you had the VHS and you just kind of rewatch the same
Yeah.
movies all the time. This
Oh yeah.
one I didn't really watch till maybe 2016. So how many times have you seen this one?
This one, as our project here, I've watched it twice, and then also independently watched clips here and there.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, about two. Yeah, like I probably prior to like watching it now, probably like 5 times. A lot of people actually, from what I've seen, they actually pick this as their favorite. No, it's not my favorite. I think it's really good, but I mean, like I said, we'll get into that towards the end. But the intro, when I put it on, like I've seen it a million times. I just for the first time actually this morning because I wanted to listen to everything that they're saying. I guess when you kind of like, okay, we're going to talk about a movie, I want to be able to really listen to everything that they're saying and really kind of come up with some, talking points. And
Yes.
I was literally 10 minutes in, like just like, has this intro always been this ridiculous? Because it's literally the most over the top actors I have ever seen, and I've seen The Invisible Man, my friend.
Oh yeah, and I mean they even though they come from that theater stage era before you get into the movies, even so, it is a little bit over the top. I do concur with that. However, one thing I did not like is a criticism of the beginning, right after the prologue, is like, and I don't mind that they re-show what happened in the windmill house, toward the end of the first one, but I don't like that they were making it like what's the Henry Frankenstein might have died, and it's like because we all know from the end of the last one he survived. So it's like, why are you playing it like that?
How did they have him? Well, didn't he get thrown off of it?
They show him get thrown off, and his abdomen hits the blade of one of the windmills.
Yeah, so he like I mean, so yeah, everyone thought he died for sure. He's not. At least I did. I thought he was dead for sure. And the whole 10 minutes, it's like we want to make sure the monster's dead. Oh, what am I? If it wasn't for me, the great whatever Burgermeister here, your savior,
Oh, the
I was
burger.
like,
And
man,
by the way, you're a horror meister, and I'm a burgermeister, not a burgomeister. But
I thought it was like the one of the first kind of like people in movies where they're like boasting about oh lucky I'm here and then they fucking Frankenstein. I laughed when I forgot the guy. Oh, it was Maria from the. I guess it was her father. I didn't recognize him. I mean, these like everyone really like looks the same to me in these films for the guys. Um,
yeah,
but I guess it was his father because they were saying Maria, and I'm like, oh, that was the daughter's name, so I'm guessing that's the same guy.
yes.
And
And that did not look like. I agree with you. That didn't to me look like the same actor that played the dad the first time around. But
yeah,
I knew that's what they were trying to do. And there's a lot of that in this movie. Like for example, Elizabeth. She is not played by the same actress. Like she's by Valerie Hobson on this one, but the first time was like a May. I forget the last name.
yeah. I was, and I was confused too. I was like, who's because we had just saw that one, and the other one was a blonde, wasn't she? And this one's like a brunette or black hair. I can't tell, but
It is darker hair.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, so they have the same names, but they're like they switch out the actors. And they do that shit a lot. They have people that die in these films. They come back as another character in a lot of these things, But I was just like, I thought it was, the old lady. I don't even know if she has a name. Is it Minnie? Um,
Minnie.
she comes out in the Invisible. So you've seen the Invisible Man, right? That's one of the
Yeah. As
Universal.
a child, yeah.
Yeah, she's so over the top. So like trying to become familiar with the Universal monsters, I watched like all the the fucking the main ones and the Invisible Man. Like right away, really got me to start liking and giving these Universal monster movies a chance because it's so ridiculous, but to the point. And she stood out in that movie. It made it really funny because it is terrifying when I'm over here doing a review of the Invisible Man, but it is terrifying when there's an invisible guy like fucking everything up, and
Yeah.
she's there like oh, and
And,
she
and,
does
and
the
for
same thing
me,
here.
and this woman, like this, her name's real name Una O'Connor, but or that was her acting name. She was born Agnes Teresa McGlade. You want to laugh at something? She is exactly 102 years older than me to the day. She was born October 23rd, 1880.
So man, you and Mark. So yeah. Shout out to Mark. No shit, same birthday, dude. That's pretty incredible, right?
Yeah, she came to America. She lived in the British occupied Ireland, and her family, they were IRA, Irish nationalists, and that made you really hated by the British. So I mean, they came over here with nothing, and she worked her way up into the theater life. God bless her.
God bless his own man. Yeah, that intro. Well, the Frankenstein monster ends up killing the dad, and then he climbs up, and like it's funny how he climbs up because the Maria's mom is like helping him up too, but she's like not. She's like turned around, and she gets tossed in there, and seeing her fall like on the.
Oh,
It looks like a ladder or something. It's like hilarious. I was like, okay.
that little wooden watermill thing, and she falls off through that, and he fell too, and has to fight fucking Frankenstein monster in that water, and that reminded me of like toward the ending of New Nightmare when they're fighting Freddy in the water.
Oh yeah, when they're at the bottom or that little fucking looks like
That
road.
hell place or whatever.
Yeah, the
And
fucking killers.
that whole fight scene in that water under the mill, like that owl is just sitting there watching the thing.
Yeah, and he gets out of there, and what happens after he gets out of there? Does he they oh he
Yeah,
sees that lady? He sees that fucking lady.
yeah,
And she starts screaming, dude. I'm like, shut up. I'm like Frankenstein. I'm like, shut up, bitch. He's like trying to. And then that's when he gets captured. They lock him up into a cellar, but
yeah,
he breaks away right away. I thought, of course, again, me trying to like have talking points. I was like laughing. I'm like, if he broke out of there so easily and just busted through the hotel, how the fuck were they able to capture him in the first place?
no, man, this guy is the original Jason Michael Myers. I mean, this dude, he gets out of there, scares the hell out of Minnie, and does like the worst horrified scream ever. Goes into some like I can't.
Yeah, that I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't want to forget that because that was the point that I'm like, man, Frankenstein was this bad. Like, I don't want to cut you off, but you brought up a very interesting point that I wanted to like because when I saw this movie, I love the original Frankenstein. It is a little bit boring once you get past that first like 20-30 minutes because that's the greatest shit ever, and then the ending. But there's like 20 minutes of where he's wandering around that I really don't care for. But
Yeah,
that intro, like when he first arrives, he turns around real slowly and he has this face and he doesn't talk or anything. That's really it, I think. This one, he shows up and fucking Minnie, she's like running off in slow motion. I was like,
oh,
this is fucked up, dude.
yeah, and then that then leads him to run. He goes over to like some ravina or a lake or whatever, sees his reflection in the water, and is finally understanding. Oh, I can see myself in the water. And
Mhm.
then, well, he gets up, and now the townspeople see him. They take shots at him with the shotguns, and of course that does nothing, but they overpower him. That's all this stuff. But then, as he escapes again, like as he escapes that imprisonment the second time, then he goes back into the countryside. He hears the violin music of this blind priest, and he's playing Ave Maria.
Yeah. That to me, that the whole movie, this scene made it all worth it, dude. Wasn't it? Like I know
Yes.
they do a really good reenactment and what is it called? Young Frankenstein, right? I think it's the movie it's called with Gene Wilder. Um, they do. Have you ever seen that movie or no?
I've not, but Gene Wilder looks kind of like Pretorius.
Oh, dude, if you, I will probably do that. For sure at some point because once you see these movies, that movie is fucking hilarious. It's like if you've seen like Hot Shots, right? With
Yeah.
so if you know all the Rambo shit or whatever, like it's like funny as fuck or Naked Gun, all the so it's like you won't get what I'm saying, but this scene is so beautiful. So when they do the mockery of it, it's like hilarious because they're almost like spot on. But this is such a sad. Like even me just working and looking, I'm like, man, this is making me super sad, man. Both of these people, that's like they don't want anything from anybody. They just want to be happy and
And have friendship.
yeah, they just want to be happy and have friendship, and fucking they get and another nitpick is that the old man goes, "There hasn't been anybody around here for a very long time," or this and that, and it's like a day later, these two people wandering and they see Frankenstein, and
Oh,
they
man, he got no
fucking
cosmic props, and all he wants to do is sit there, hear the violin, and have a smoke.
yeah, good, Chris.
And
What he's
doesn't
eating.
that priest sounds like the claymation Santa on the Rudolph thing?
Yeah. Yeah, he says the prayer and everything when he wants Frankenstein to lay down. And my thing was like, man, because Frankenstein's made out of flesh and he hasn't showered in a few weeks, and he's dead. I'm like, man, that old man can't smell that motherfucker.
And if you ever been over to a house that recently like caught on serious fire, that Frankenstein's got to smell like.
Oh yeah, no, I was like thinking of all that shit because his hair's all burned today, I mean, everything, right? So,
Whew.
um, after that, they the um find the monster and they fucking he ends up running off and all this bullshit again. But that's where
Yeah,
before all that shit, we meet Dr. Pretorius, who's like the most over guy in the film because he's a little. He's the one that's the shit disturber. We'll call him Dr.
yeah.
Mark Pretorius, and he
I didn't like him. I didn't trust him from the start. I'm like, what's this? This dude just dodged death. He's hurt. He needs to rest. Why are you coming over this dude's house this late at night after that just happened? I'm like, I hate you right off the bat.
yeah, I like when she's Dr. Pretorius, and then she opens the door and he comes in and he like his shadow, he casts a big shadow in the background. So they did like a little cool thing there, and he
Yes.
starts talking about him,
And
talking to
she's and
Henry.
she's leading him to the room. She's leading him to the room. Pretorius. Ain't no such name.
Yeah, yeah. She's putting the name over, dude, and that's where he's. I was guessing he was like a teacher of Henry, the same way the other doctor was a
Walden.
professor. Yeah, on the prior one, and he's like, "Oh, well, we're not going to be going, as a student and teacher, but as equals." And he's like trying to, get him over. Um,
Yeah.
and he goes and shows him his creations, and it's pretty cool the way he explains it because I never again never didn't pay attention to exactly how he did what he did because he has these people in like little glass jars, and I'm like, what the fuck is that, and how did he do that? And he's all like, I grew them, like a seed, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Man, that dude is foreseeing stem cells like 60 years beforehand.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was really weird. And he goes, "This isn't creation. This is necromancy, or some bullshit
Oh, he
like
says,
that."
this is creation. This is black magic, is what this is.
Yeah, black magic. Yeah, he says. I was all like, "Oh, exactly." I was all like, "Because you see the two different, styles of creation or how they're bringing to life, these things." And yeah, it was just black magic. I was like, "Okay, okay," but that's where where Frankenstein monster ends up going, and he runs into Pretorius in like a tomb where he's like drinking to us with a skull and shit. It was like so it's so like like I was saying, so campy. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like Pretorius is just drinking in some random ass cave or two
Yeah, it's like God. It reminds me of that one little mini like covered place in that one episode of Fresh Prince where like you could sit there, but it's kind of dingy and dark, and all the dead people are sitting there, the spirits talking, playing poker. But it's that type of place. And then he's all, "Oh, I wasn't expecting to see you." Okay, well, man,
Yeah, it's so fucking funny, dude. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Um, and they get along right away, and we didn't talk about it too much, but the old man he like teaches them how to talk. He starts saying good and friend and smoke good and fire and all
I
that
am life. Prefer being dead.
yeah, you're wise in your generation. That shit made me fucking laugh. That was the funniest part of the whole movie, dude. He's like, that reminds me of Mark and somebody else where he's just like spewing nonsense just to like put him over, dude. You're wise in your generation, Frankenstein. You know what I mean? It's just like whatever it's gonna take to put this kid over. I was like,
Yeah,
okay. And
the witty comebacks.
so they go and they try to like bully Frankenstein to help him create um, the bride, which I forgot. What does he say? A
He
mate,
was a
right?
want to have friend like me.
Yeah. And he's like, no, I will not do it. I cannot. He's like so over the top.
And I think the way the Frankenstein monster talks once he starts learning to just say more than a word at a time, I think that's probably where Pat Morita got the idea for how Mr. Miyagi would talk.
Right. It's like exactly the way it is. I started like chuckling at it too because I was like, man, Frankenstein learned all this shit pretty damn quick. The monster. I keep on saying Frankenstein, but it's the monster, dude. And yeah, he's like, fucking, you bring me friend, hey, and
And if you work, keep working. No, but I'm tired.
he's fucking. I think do they steal Elizabeth? They do something with. I remember her screaming her ass off, but they yeah, they take her to the to the Frankenstein castle, right? And
Yes.
they, I don't think they do anything with getting together the body parts that I remember for the bride, but all of a sudden they have this wrapped up body there.
Yeah, that was more like as I remember, it was a combination. It was a fusion of some pre-existing parts from other women and some of like the stem cell growth, as he was talking about, to make this woman. And dare I say, Bride of Frankenstein, she ends up far sight better as a human being than the original monster.
No shit, right? They fucking screwed him and shit compared to her. She's all fucking nothing really wrong with her, just an over ass hairdo.
No,
Um,
and that's Mary Shelley in the prologue, and that's also Bride of Frankenstein in the movie.
yeah, yeah. I had saw her just because I've seen it like multiple times. I'm like, she looks kind of the same because she has like a little indention on her chin, and it's so cool to see her in the beginning so animated, like, oh well, this and that, and then seeing her just like screaming or fucking not really doing much, but just having a blank face or and then hissing. I think she does at the end, so it's cool because you're like, if you just saw her in the movie, you'd be like, I want her to act more, but she does in the intro. Um, this one, it's disappointing that they're not together longer in the film because like when you see Bride of Frankenstein, you want kind of at least some kind of like 20-minute thing, but it's only like she comes in like at the last, was it 5 to 6, 7 minutes of the
Yeah,
film?
that's exactly how long it is, about that. And yeah, like I said, it is because you want to see them be together for some kind, maybe not even 20, but at least 10 to 15, and see that. And
Yeah,
and and that scream that she gives out, and her hair's all back like it's on static.
yeah.
That scene was put in so many commercials in the 90s when we were kids.
I do remember seeing that before I actually saw the movie. So yeah, I mean, I don't remember which ones they were, but I remember seeing her for way before I ever saw this movie. And I think that what happens at the end, like I know everyone starts trying to make, and Frank and the monster was like, "Hey," and like
Yeah, but maybe they kind of they sound like chicks, and they bring even watching this, but it just you don't focus on the that's the whole mini act.
memorable line.
The mere fact that he baby between the two movies, more often than not portrayed as a character. But the fact that he babyfaced himself tells Henry and Elizabeth go and live.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. He kind of like learns that, hey, me being here and all these other people, they're bad people, and we, y'all go, and then like, yeah, it's like that's his redeem scene, dude. The redeem team. Um, but
It's a story of redemption, like Forrest Gump.
how do you rate this one, and what are your closing thoughts on the movie overall, man? After all the shit we talked about, like I said, the tonal change, and just everything about it, really.
Fun, and I'm gonna give it another 9 out of 10 with this one here. Not quite as straightforward, a lot more variety. But it does leave me wanting to see Son of Frankenstein, which if you're in the sequel franchise business, that's what you want to do. Like the pimp says to his hoes, keep them coming.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I don't remember what I gave Frankenstein, but I should have been a 9 out of 10. So
I think we both did 9.
okay, yeah. So this one's like an 8. This one's not as good as Frankenstein. There's a lot more that goes on. To me, it's a better film if you're like trying to be technical. A lot more stuff goes on, but like for me, what I like is like the original. But this one's still really good, even though it's such a different type of movie. They do a lot of cool shit in here. The characters are super memorable. They don't have Fritz, but that's okay. They got everybody else, and they're very memorable. Um, and
And this is a very far step into the 1930s movie world, which
mhm.
I mean, a lot of people will hear that and just think, oh, okay, those old movies. But no, hear me out, audience, because what you want to think is full length talking movies don't start till about 28, 29, right? So here we are in 35. And now we not only have full synchronized dialogue for over an hour, we've also got music in the background that fits the mood of the scene. And you see with this, you're going place to place to place, and you've got the background music and you've got the charismatic characters. This is going to set the stage for when you really have a heavy hitter like the Wizard of Oz. Yeah, I'd say if it wasn't for this movie, we might not have had as good of a Wizard of Oz as we did.
Yeah, we were talking about that. So, just for the people listening, so the next one we're going to be doing is Son of Frankenstein. And me and Chris are on like a bi weekly type kind of deal. Sometimes we might do it back to back, but most likely it's going to be every other week. Like the paychecks, winks at Chris. And so the next one we're planning to do is Son of Frankenstein. And then we're gonna make a completely, that Bride of Frankenstein tonal shift and do the fucking Wizard of Oz, guys.
Are
I'm really
you?
excited. Yeah, I'm really excited too, because
I am too.
yeah, because we've talked about, and this year again, far in advance announcement. This year, finally, after popular demand, mainly just from Chris and nobody else. We're gonna do "It's a Wonderful Life" for in December, so that'll be
Chris,
scheduled out whenever. But it'll be the December, movie. And because this year we decided to start doing a little bit of a mixture of not just horror movie. It'll be like 70, maybe 80% horror movies, but based on what's coming out, what's going on, the holidays. You heard it's a 20-year anniversary for this, so we're doing like a mixture of things. We'll be doing some mob movies. I talked about it last time. We'll do Scarface, Carlitos Way, Goodfellas, all kinds of different shit. But we're
yeah.
starting off with something that we've talked about like a lot, because when I first met Chris, besides a lot, the wrestling stuff, when he told me he was into the Wizard of Oz and stuff like that, I was like, wow. I was like, because it's like I think it's such a great and strange movie that whenever someone else likes it, of course, there's something special about them because it's such a trippy movie, right?
Yes, and the book is even more involved in the movie for sure. But yeah, it's just I grew up with that, like mainly because my grandfather liked it so much that my mom put it on us, and my brother one night like it was on TV and he recorded on VHS from the TV, and we would always watch that tape.
Can you imagine? Because that movie came out what year? Like the 30s or the 40s?
1939.
Can you imagine, dude? Like we fucking we have all this entertainment now, but you remember just being in the 90s how there was very little, and 80s, and you just keep going back. it's like 1939, 1940. You go see this in theaters, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" It's a trip nowadays. You know what I mean?
I mean, you talk about that. I mean, 1939. There's no TV. There's maybe one theater per city, maybe two for like motion picture movies, and
Yeah.
then people are still going to see live play theater acting and stuff like that. But then you have to balance that out with your budget because maybe you don't have a job because in 1939 we haven't gotten into World War II yet to get the economy going again.
Imagine that, dude. 1939, people didn't weren't having jobs, dude.
Fucking
Yeah,
A.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like I said, it's a trip now watching it. I can't imagine back then where there wasn't that much like shit that you can watch. Period. And yeah, you weren't you couldn't throw shit on, and we're so desensitized nowadays, and like the shit we were talking last week about. Oh, I know what it's like to be God. Like it's like shocking to see some of this shit. So I can imagine seeing the flying monkeys in '39, but don't we'll get to that shit soon. But this shit was fun to do. Son of Frankenstein next. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see y'all on the next one.
Man, you got to be shitting me. That mother's strong.
Peace.
Peace.